sheds American blood and sheds Iraqi blood or sheds Russian blood. And that should never be the first option. And that's sort of been my purpose, I guess, ever since leaving the inspection business back in 1998, has been to speak out in critical fashion of American policies, which I believe too easily take the path to conflict and don't spend enough time trying to search for a diplomatic offering.
I mean, you know about a guy by the name of Dwight D. Eisenhower,
Yeah.
five-star general, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, who in his farewell address warns the American people that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children.
And it would also change the nation.
Yep.
That what the United States thought it was would no longer be.
Yep.
When you allow the confluence between the military-industrial complex and Congress to come in, because now you've perverted American democracy with money and greed that's linked to war. So yeah, no, Dwight D. Eisenhower was a genius. And the other thing about Dwight, remember this: he was the commander of American forces during the war, during the Normandy invasion. And when he gave a speech about the sacrifice made years later, he wept. He wept. So here's a man who, had been a hardened killer, and yet in retrospect, he wept about sacrifices.
Yeah.
Because he recognized that war is, it's, a lot of people keep saying that war is mankind's finest moment, because during conflict, human beings do amazing things of heroism, amazing acts, science, and all that stuff. But to me, war represents the absolute failure of humanity, the failure of mankind. So, and I think Dwight Eisenhower grew to recognize that war was not something to be embraced or encouraged or spoken highly of. When war occurs, it means that humanity has failed. And I say that about what's going on in Ukraine right now. Even though I believe Russia has a valid national security interest in doing what it's doing, I would tell Vladimir Putin the same thing I would tell Zelensky. This is both of your faults, because there were things that could have happened to prevent this.
I agree with you.
Everything is happening. Every life lost, every building destroyed, everything didn't have to happen. There was a way out of this. The sad thing is, what is ultimately probably going to happen in terms of the terms of surrender that are going to be imposed on Ukraine, Ukraine could have gotten away with half of that simply up front by saying, yeah, we won't join NATO, and we'll work on delegitimizing these Nazis, and we won't threaten Russians. And all NATO had to say is, we accept this outcome. Look what happened. Peace. But no, we chose the path of war because, unfortunately, the military-industrial complex, when linked with politicians, makes war an imperative.
In Putin's speech this week, by the way, he came out against, quote, the military-industrial complex that's igniting this. And you mentioned about how the lead up to this happened and how I don't know your exact words, but the allegiance and alliance of some sort between NATO and Ukraine forces. The United States and NATO, it's in this week's Trends Journal magazine, $40 billion since the overthrow of Yanukovych has gone to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And this is our magazine from 2014 about the overthrow, the coup of the United States. So we've been following this as well, and now, to me, someone like you should be running for office in a new party, or because the world is ready for a man that knows the real sides of the story. And you wouldn't be you if you weren't where you were. And I understand that because I'm me, because I was on the other side at one time without going into my life. And I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement back in the 70s. At 28 years old, staying at the Willard Hotel and putting my meetings on at the Hay Adams. And you mentioned about the Marines and in the first Gulf War. I met Anthony Zinni, the general as well, And so anyway, I was on another side. And you were on the other side. You grew up in it. And as we grow up, we learn things. You don't know anything when you're a kid. You just buy it and learn it. But a man like you and what you have and your knowledge and your passion and your care, you need to be out there and really leading the charge of freedom and peace. And I don't know, I'm just coming off the top of my head and saying this, but you're an essential being to bring this country back into the direction where it needs to go.
Well, I certainly appreciate the kind words and the note. I will say this. Everybody's seen the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with Jimmy Stewart. And it's a great movie. And I'm not saying that I'm Mr. Smith. What I'm saying, though, is that Washington, D.C., I've been there. I've seen it. I'm sure you've done the same. You can joust at windmills all you want, but unless there's a fundamental change in how the system works, it would be, I'll put it this way, and I'm just being deadly honest with you. When I made the decision to step away from the system, from doing the job as an insider and to be a critic, I paid a heavy price and my family paid a heavy price. Now, I don't care about the price I paid. I'm an adult, to bring it on. But what happened to my family and what it continues to happen to my family, because there's ongoing ramifications, knowing what I know today, I wouldn't have done it because it's not fair to my wife. It wasn't fair to my children. It wasn't fair to my immediate family. It wasn't fair to my friends to step out and try to do the right thing only to be beaten down. And again, if you want to beat me down,
come on in,
man.
Yep.
Yeah, but my family was asked to pay a price that they didn't get to vote on. They didn't get to say, yeah, we want you to do this. They've always been by my